Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode in our reading series webinar. These webinars all aim to help you support reading your child at home. So the debate that we're looking at today is reading on screens versus reading on paper, and which one is better for your child. So to start with, just a bit of information, and especially if you haven't checked out the first one that we've done about the barriers to reading and why it's so crucial to success. Here's a little diagram on the board which really illustrates just how important reading for pleasure is in developing reading attainment. And what I mean by reading attainment is that's your child's success in reading in any given subject. So whether they're walking into a geography classroom and they're reading about volcanoes, or they're walking into a maths classroom and they're understanding and unpicking the question that they're being asked. Reading for pleasure is absolutely crucial in this. So we say 20 minutes a night for reading for pleasure. And the reason we say that is because there's a lot of research that suggests that once your child has got that reading enjoyment, that will then lead to reading positive attitudes, and then we'll see that leading to reading behaviour, good habits, good routines, and then eventually we'll see them being successful in their reading in their subjects. So it's really, really important that as a parent and carer, you're helping your child develop that reading for pleasure skill. In case you're wondering about the barriers and why some children find it so difficult, check out our previous webinar that covers that. So unfortunately, I can't answer the debate in 1 or 2 word answers. Our children need to become biliterate on screens and on paper. There's no quick win with this. Technology has no signs of slowing down, and it has no signs of being eradicated from our education system. So it's really important that we teach our children to become biliterate, meaning literate in both paperback, paper versions, and on screens. And this is taken from the research of Clinton and Delgado fairly recently. So they suggest that it's so important that our children know how to read on both mediums, and perhaps more importantly, they know how to flex and adapt their reading style for each medium, because both do require slightly different things. So let's start with paperback books. Research suggests with these that there is better comprehension compared to reading on a screen. Your child should understand it a little bit more. Obviously, hopefully there's no other reading barriers there, but they should comprehend what they're reading better on a paperback book or on a piece of paper compared to reading on a screen. There is something about the tactility of turning the page that helps go into our short-term memory. Maybe that's just the way that we've been programmed as humans, but something about turning the pages helps to aid that comprehension as well. Paperback books are also more satisfying to complete. I'm not sure about you, but when I see that I've got a couple of 100 pages left and I've read 300 already, it's really satisfying. It's really exciting, and it's a great motivator for both adults and children alike. When it comes to reading on paper, frequency is key, and I'll say the same for reading on screens. To become a better reader, you need to do it frequently. And another great thing about paperback books that helps to aid with this reading skills is there's something really nice about owning a book. It's yours, it's precious, maybe it's been gifted to you, maybe you've popped into a charity shop and got it for 50p, but you own that now. And that's not something that we can necessarily say about the use of screens that we ask our children to read on. So there's something really powerful about ownership and reading as well. Let's compare this now with reading on screens. Now it's fairly new in terms of our cognitive ability as humans. We haven't been doing it for years and years. And think about your child over the most recent lockdown period. They've had to go from a whole education system that is built upon reading on paper, reading books, reading extracts, reading resources, to reading 100% on screens. That's really difficult, and the reason why it's so difficult is they have not been trained on that yet. Reading on a screen is not an automatic process. Just like our child would have spent years and years in primary school learning how to read, we need to teach our children how to read on a screen as well. What often happens is that we overestimate our abilities. We think we've understood something, we think we've comprehended something, but actually we haven't. And we really do overestimate our understanding of what we've read on a screen. Linked to what I was saying just a minute ago, there is such a value in developing reading on a screens, because I really don't see reading on a screens disappearing from our education system. And if your child's thinking about going into higher education as well, university, the cost of textbooks is absolutely eye-watering. So I know a lot of students at university get PDF versions of that. And they're going to have to read that on a screen unless they can print that out for themselves as well. As with reading on paper, frequency is absolutely key as well. The more we do these things, the better we get at them. When I mentioned that it's not an automatic process, the reason why it's not automatic and we tend to overestimate ourselves is because what we do is we read too fast on screens. We're a little bit arrogant, and instead what we need to do is really slow down, and we need to stop skimming and scanning and actually close read like we would in a piece of paper. So really spend the time understanding every single word in that sentence and making sure that the comprehension of that sentence is complete before moving on. Now, of course, there are so many advantages of reading on screens. One being that if you're particularly interested in a topic, you can double check that the efficacy of what you've read is correct. You can check that it's kind of based in evidence and science as well. And reading on a screen allows you to jump to several different topics. So I'm really into history. So you might catch me reading something on my phone, maybe an article, and then 5-6 minutes down the line, I'm reading a completely different one that's linked about the same idea. So reading on a screen is great for people that kind of had that fickleness around what they want to read. It allows for that fluidity, which is great for when we're helping our children read, because they need to be independent. They need to have choice over what they want to read as well. And I know I was mentioning about research and education and the way that it's kind of moving forward, but I could easily see a situation, not that I'm a futurist or anything, but I could easily see a situation 10-15 years down the line where students are reading something on a screen, and then it pops up with a little comprehension check to read throughout. So reading on screens is still relatively new for us, especially within the education sphere. So what I've hopefully highlighted so far are some of the positives and negatives between reading on paper versus reading on a screen. And what I've got here, which I'll just leave on the screen for a moment there, is a comparison between the two, just so you can see them side by side. So feel free to pause this video here if you want to show it to your child, have a chat about it. What do they find good about reading paper? What do they find challenging versus reading on a screen as well? And finally, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, this is all great, but what can I actually do as a parent and carer to help my child become biliterate? And quite simply, get them reading both. So send them into the school library. It's open every lunchtime, and they can grab a book from there. Charity shops have got many books at the moment. People have had clean outs after COVID, and have donated lots of brilliant books at great prices. Or additionally, we have a reading app at school called Sora. Now, this has got over 2,500 books and audiobooks on there, so it's a great opportunity to help develop your child's biliterate reading skills by helping them understand that they need to be good at reading both. So that's everything we've got time for today. Hopefully you found this interesting. Do let us know if there's anything else you want us to talk about in regards to reading. These are still relatively new for us as webinars, so let us know what's working for you, what's not, and we can put some things out there that you think would be really beneficial to help boost your child's reading skills. Thanks for watching.